This week on the Coastal News podcast, alcoholic receives help from locals, con artist victim keeps money, heartbroken girl tells ex to leave her alone, and doctors reunited. Hello, this is Coastal News, an unofficial home and away podcast where we dissect the latest week's episodes and discuss the happenings and residents of our favourite fictional town, Summer Bay. Right, this week we start off. Alf's really not happy, is he? He's kicked off with Rue and Kieran. Quite something, really, when there was this really great scene with Alf, Kieran and Rue, and he finally, after the week before, sort of avoiding going to meet Alf and and confronting those demons, if you like, buys that bottle of scotch off Mac. And I know I said last week's episode, gosh, I can't believe she served him, but there we go. She did, and thankfully it led to a lovely scene with Ryder and Rue, and him not opening the scotch and finding the strength to not do it, which I thought was lovely, and really well done, and it shows how much of a rock Rue is really to everybody in the Stewart family, and I think we take her for granted. I don't know, I do as a viewer. I think she really is the glue really that sort of holds them all together, and she sort of takes one for the team. It navigates Alf, doesn't she? She sort of takes that and is like, leave Alf to me, but in the end Kieran comes round and they have that chat, and he does this really brave thing, I thought, where he just admits that he didn't come and he bought a drink, and he didn't do it, he didn't drink it, but, he was very nearly there, and Alf just loses it. Now, I know, and I'm struggling because I know Alf is like that. He does fly off the handle and lose things a lot, lose his temper, but he's really not coming off well here at all with this whole thing. He's a stubborn old git, we know that, that's nothing new, but he's not even, I don't know. I'm struggling because he's just looking like an old stubborn git, not listening. He's not willing to listen. He's not going to, how many chances has he give other people over the years? I think Reuben says that to him at one point. That's what, especially, his house, that's the heritage of Summer Bay House, isn't it? Bringing in troubled people and taking them under your wing. And I just think, why would you not do this for your wife's own son? Now, I know Martha's not around at the minute, and I know last time her and Kieran were together, it was really, really frightening for her. But I imagine, Martha, we'll see when she comes back to the Bay again, but I imagine, it's her son, and she'll be at least willing to listen to him, I'm really, really disappointed with Alf, actually. I know he's going to come round in the end, but it just seems to be taking way too long this time, in my opinion. And I think he's really let himself down. I don't know what you guys think, but I think that the very fact that people like Irene have reached out and helped him, and he's even had a pop at her, I just thought says a lot, really, about Alf's real character, actually. He's looking out for his wife, I get that, but actually, there's better ways of doing this, pal. Just ring Martha, tell her he's here, tell her that, he's turning his life around, read the letter if, that letter he wants her to read or whatever. It's going to upset her. Absolutely, she might be worried, she might be frightened, but, if anyone's going to convince Martha that, Kieran's turned a corner and he's really trying, it's going to be Alf, isn't it, So there we go. And I mentioned Irene taking me. I think Kieran living with Irene for now, actually really quite nice. It's quite a nice sort of family dynamic, house dynamic going on over there at Irene's house with her and Kieran, and obviously she knows the telltale sign, so she'll be able to tell when he's fallen off the wagon. And was very, very, very strict, no alcohol rule at Irene's. So it means, Maz can crack open a bottle of red when she wants, when she's at home, without having to worry. But yeah, so I thought it was really nice of her to take him in. I love it that she just gave Alf a serve, and she just says to him, I will have in my house is my flipping business. when she's talking to Alf. I just loved it. She proper gave Alf a serve. I mean, it fell on deaf ears in one ear or the other, but I love Irene. She's no nonsense, isn't she? And I feel like she might end up being Alf's Achilles heel. She might end up sort of knocking sense into Alf, about this whole situation. Jasmine wasn't too sure, was she, about Kieran being at the house with her and Irene at first. This is a prime example of why Alf should listen to Kieran, because eventually Jasmine sort of hears him out and she has a chat and she actually talks to him properly, and they end up having a really nice friendship forming, don't they? Watching telly together. And I quite like their friendship. I hope it is just a friendship and nothing more, because that would just ruin it. But I think they've got like a really nice little Kieran and Jazz little roomies friendship going on, and all because she was willing to give him a little time to listen to him and listen to his story. Alf, you should learn a thing or two from Jasmine. We're just picking up sort of after Stephen's arrest as well, with Leah and Justin, and we found surprisingly that Leah sort of, she got a bit of a cold shoulder, hasn't she, early in the week. She's not really feeling Justin. Justin's a new man basically now all this investigation's over. He's been off the meds a few days, he's upbeat, he's positive, and Leah's got a face on, and Tori's like, are you okay, are you alright, what's going on? And of course she's got this sort of guilt that she actually thought that her partner Justin could be a murderer. And I just thought, so you should feel guilty, because it was absolutely ludicrous that you even thought and believed that from Stephen, a practical stranger. But we covered that frustration about that, and it all turns out anyway that there's bigger fish to fry, because she stashed the blooming money in the shed. I mean, oh my God, what on earth was she thinking? My initial reaction was, how on earth does she think she's going to even get away with that? How are you going to spend that kind of money? Especially when it's so high profile that that's the exact amount of money that you'd lost to a con woman. I don't think she thought it through. I think, I do wonder if Justin hadn't agreed to move back in, what would she have told anybody about that money? Would she have just sort of buggered off to Bali or something every year on holiday and, gone to see VJ, splashing the cash? I don't know. But yeah, she's had to come clean because Justin's moving back into the outhouse thing. That was once upon a time Brody's love shack. But yeah, and obviously, now, this is where things got a bit strange. I didn't agree that she should have stole the money and stashed it. I didn't agree at all about that. But I was torn at this point, because Justin's reaction was a bit odd, because he knows it's wrong to do, and rather than try and talk calmly to Leah and sort of say to her, this is illegal, try and make her see sense in that, like I've just said, how you're going to spend it, what you're going to do. It's dirty money, basically. Even if it is ours, it needs to be properly investigated. What about, he does mention a bit later on, doesn't he, feel for Johnny's lost money as well, yada, yada, yada. But in that initial stage, he just sort of gave her an ultimatum. You tell the police or I will. And I thought, how's that going to improve things in your relationship by giving ultimatums like that? And I was a bit worried that we were going to end up going down them arguing, loads again. But I think we find out, don't we? She comes on eventually, comes round and agrees to turn the money in, and John's a bit perplexed. Cash. Isn't Cash such a nice policeman? I said this on Twitter during the week, watching, tweeting along to the episode. But he sort of says, he needs to take this in. You're probably going to get charged, Leah. And I'm thinking, Leah's going to end up in the slammer here again. And they go outside and he's there and he says, there's been an if he fakes this anonymous tip off, doesn't he? Basically gets him off the hook. And I thought, Cash is doing really well. He's a decent policeman and he's doing really well at helping the the community and sort of getting into the community. Something that I don't think now, looking back, Colby did too much. I'm trying to think if that was Colby still. He probably would have followed protocol, whereas Cash is willing not to for people. And I think, I'm wondering if someone's going to come out about him. He seemed, I noticed this when when Amy, the detective Amy the other week was interviewing Justin, and he sort of intervened and arranged, and sort of got help for Justin. Has he got sympathy, empathy for Justin and Leah? Has he got experience with addiction? I don't know. Is that going to come out later on? He's definitely got way more empathy than Colby did, and I've only realised it now. We have a new policeman that Colby was a stickler, despite him being a river boy. So that was actually quite interesting the way that happened. And I thought, that Cash, in such a short space of time, has really cemented his position in the Bay and in the community. And I think doing things like that will really get him found, get him on everybody's side. Including mine. I got a lot of respect for him there, and of all the police, every few years we get new police in, don't we? He's been the quickest to get into my good books. I'm really starting to like him as a character already, and I'm excited to see what we're going to get from him coming forward. So I really liked that. I thought, despite Leah doing a bad thing and her getting away with it and all that moral stuff we've got to fight with, I think Cash knows what he's doing when it comes to policing in a small town. Now, I'm not happy about this, but Tori has become intoxicated by Christian's spell. Again, I nearly said smell. Christian's spell. She's under it, and I'm not liking it because I think after. Obviously, I've expressed that I just don't understand what Christian was going through, this near-death experience and this cosmic force he was trying to follow and all that blah. I just don't get it. So the fact that the way he treated Tori, especially on the eve of their wedding day, I just don't think she should give him the time of day. And I know it's not as black and white as that, but she has got Grace to think about, and she said it herself, I've got to really consider letting you in again. Because it confuses Grace. I'm confused, blah blah blah, and I think she's now gone there, and I'm just thinking, Christian's a bit like Rachel, who, I think the idea is he's supposed to realise that was always meant to happen, and he wasn't actually meant to be there at the diving on the day. It wasn't all fate and will, time and space and blah 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 all aligning, but. So he's now sort of lucid again, but I think I'm just not buying it, and I think Tori's setting herself up for a fall. I think she deserves better, and I think she can get better. I'm not into Tori anymore. I'm over it. I'm done with it, and that's as much as I've got to say on the subject. I have a feeling they're going to end up engaged again, and we're going to end up back to that stage. So I'll watch it, and I'll comment on it if you'd like me to, but just know that they're not one of my favourite couples. In fact, they're far from it. And Bella's returned to town with Emmett, back from the big smoke, and upbeat. She's had time away from the Bay, away from all the drama, away from the fallout of Neek's cheating escapade, and Neek's he's on at her, isn't he? He's every second, and he's not listening when she's telling him to do one. So, I can't remember who said it now, but someone said, you're doing it for your own feelings, not for Bella's. I think, was it Ziggy? When she finally came round to Tane, on side, and was like, Nick, you're doing it for your feelings, not for Bella's. Bella needs you to leave her alone, and you need to do that. And it was a good telling. He's fighting with her, he's fighting with Tane, he's not listening to anybody, and I think it's the guilt, isn't it? The guilt's eating him up. He feels like he wants to fix it, he's wrecked it, he feels awful, he feels sad, he feels all these emotions, because he's the one that wrecked it between Bella and him. I imagine over time Bella might come round to even at least talking to him about things. But I can understand why she doesn't want to bar him. She needs to focus on the exhibition and make that a success now. Focus on herself. Interesting that he sort of, in boys being boys and teenagers being teenagers or whatever, does this sort of spitting dummy out the pram moment and tries to get his job back with Sienna, who just replies with a selfie of her with another hot model. And you're just thinking, yeah, he'll be kicking himself, Nick, won't he, for being such an idiot, you know. And you can understand that. I do feel for both of them, you know. Bella didn't deserve it, but also Nick will be going through the mill as well with it all. This Tane Ziggy thing, we're starting to see signs of Ziggy again. You know, she's not being fair to Tane. I don't think she treats him very well at all, you know. And we're now starting to see signs of her, you know, distancing from him. I think personally, I think he's into her more than she's into him. What do you think? And there was that weird scene where Dean came home where Ziggy was talking to Bella about, you know, forgiveness, and over time things get a little bit easier day by day, and you do have to wonder whether Ziggy was telling Bella that, or she was telling herself that. I think there's an inkling there that things are not all resolved as we thought between Ziggy and Dean, and I think that's going to be awful if Tane ends up hurt. I might be completely off the mark, but if Tane ends up hurt, there's going to be trouble, isn't there, you know. But yeah, so hopefully now Nick leaves Bella alone for a bit, gives her that time that she needs just to focus on herself, and who knows, one day she might come round. But thank God he's not a model anymore. I wonder if he'll get his job back at the bait shop. Right, that's everything for this week's Coastal News podcast episode. Do please join in the discussion if you wish during the week as episodes air on Channel 5 at Coastal News Pod on both Twitter and Instagram. And we'll be back next week with another episode dissecting all the week's drama ahead in the Bay. Thanks for listening, appreciate that. Do follow, like, subscribe so you're notified of future episodes, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.